Leo, this is your divine signal to stop doing and start receiving. The universe is handling everything for you now. Your only job is to rest. Your miracle is already on the way, and this week, it's closer than ever. You've carried the weight of too many battles alone, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. The truth is, your exhaustion isn't a weakness, it's a spiritual credential. You've fought long enough. You've been loyal, brave, and fiercely committed, even when no one was watching. And now, the universe is watching. There's a sacred shift happening behind the scenes of your life right now. Not next month. Not in some distant future. This week. You're not here by accident. You didn't click on this video out of boredom or curiosity. Your soul brought you here because it's finally time to lay down your armor. You're being discharged from a spiritual war you were never meant to fight alone. The moment has come to rest in faith, not fear. To let go with power, not panic. To stop striving and allow divine orchestration to take the lead. There is an energetic takeover unfolding in your life, and the only thing that can delay it is your refusal to rest. This isn't about giving up. This is about aligning. Miracles aren't born from chaos. They arrive through clarity, surrender, and peace. And for you, Leo, the portal of peace is now wide open. So breathe. Let yourself lean back into this moment, because for the first time in a long time, the outcome is no longer in your hands, and that's a good thing. You're not being asked to figure it out. You're being asked to trust that it's already figured out. And yes, I know trust is the hardest thing to do when you've been the one holding everything together for so long. But what if I told you that this week, your rest is the strategy that unlocks the blessing? That your quiet confidence will do more to shift reality than all the hustling in the world? I invite you to stay with me. We're not here to simply predict your week. We're here to decode the divine schedule, so you can flow with it, not fight against it. Because trust me, the universe is setting in motion for you is more beautiful, more precise, and more abundant than anything your mind could calculate. Take this moment to ground yourself in gratitude, because you're not watching this alone. You're part of a greater collective, a spiritual family awakening together. This is your home. A safe place for healing, wisdom, and miracles to take root. If this message already speaks to something deep inside you, I encourage you to comment below and affirm it. Type, "I receive my divine rest," in the comments to activate this energy in your life. Tell me what brought you here today, and share the moment you knew something bigger was moving for you. Your voice matters. Your presence here is no accident. And yes, your breakthrough is personal to the heavens. Let's begin this sacred journey together. You'll want to stay until the very end, because what's unfolding for you this week, Leo, is nothing short of miraculous. Leo, what you're feeling right now, that quiet pause, that strange stillness in your heart, is not confusion, and it's not emptiness. It's what I lovingly call the divine handover. It's the precise moment when the spiritual weight you've been carrying on your back for years is gently lifted, almost imperceptibly, and transferred to a greater force that has always been watching, always been waiting for your soul to signal, "I can't hold this alone anymore." This is not surrender in the sense of giving up, it's surrender in the highest, most powerful sense, the kind that says, "I trust that I've done my part. Now I give space for grace to finish the work." For far too long, you've been stuck in a survival loop, constantly alert, constantly fixing, constantly fighting invisible battles that no one else even noticed. You took on burdens that didn't belong to you. You solved problems before others knew they existed. You were the light in dark rooms, the stability in chaotic spaces, the one others leaned on while you yourself were shaking inside. And yet, even in the shaking, you stood. That wasn't weakness. That was resilience. But now, that season is closing not because you failed but because your endurance has spoken volumes to the universe. There is something sacred that happens when a soul reaches its limit, not with anger or collapse, but with honesty. That is what initiates the energetic transfer. The moment when the soul whispers, "I can't keep doing this by myself," a spiritual gate opens. This gate doesn't swing open with drama, but with reverence. And what walks in through that gate isn't more work, it's help. Assistance. Divine orchestration. A restructured reality. If you've been sensing the sudden silence of people who once stirred your anxiety, if opportunities have paused, if you're waking up not with panic but with confusion about how strangely still it feels inside you, that's not a void. It's a spiritual shift. It's the stillness that happens when the battle is no longer yours to fight. It's the calm that comes when your divine backup has arrived. In sacred teachings and even in practical therapeutic models, we see this pattern again and again. Healing doesn't begin with force, it begins with release. In the most unexpected moments, in the pauses between struggle and striving, we are met with something holy, peace. And in that peace, we remember a deeper truth: not everything is ours to carry. There are assignments that come with an expiration date. Roles that were never meant to be permanent. Emotional weights that we were only meant to hold long enough to recognize we were never meant to hold them alone. This week, that moment has arrived for you. You are not being demoted, you're being elevated. And the path to elevation begins with a kind of rest that the world doesn't always understand. It is not the kind of rest you take when you're lazy or disengaged. It is the sacred rest that says, "I trust the process. I trust what's unfolding. I trust that I am not alone." In the same way that a surgeon requires the patient to lie still before healing can begin, the universe now requires your stillness to activate the intervention. You are not on pause, you are being prepared. Rest, in this case, is not absence of motion, it is alignment with a higher rhythm. The rhythm of divine timing. The rhythm of grace. This is the moment when your job shifts from building to witnessing. From pushing to allowing. From trying to earn love, peace, and breakthrough to receiving it because you've already qualified through your endurance, your intention, and your quiet faith. And if at any moment you doubt this transition, remember this: God is not moved by your perfection. God is moved by your trust. And trust is exactly what you're demonstrating now, simply by being here. So let yourself exhale. Let yourself be supported. Let yourself be seen not for what you've done, but for who you are. You've been drafted into the quiet army of the surrendered, and this week, your miracle doesn't need your control. It only needs your agreement. Leo, you've been conditioned to equate motion with meaning. In a world that rewards the loudest noise and the most frantic action, choosing stillness can feel like failure. But this week, something sacred is unfolding in your life that doesn't require effort, it requires space. The energetic invitation being offered to you now is not about doing more, but about doing differently. And that begins with rest. Not passive rest. Not collapse after burnout. but conscious, chosen rest that stems from deep wisdom and knowing that not everything is yours to fix, carry, or manage. You've been living as if you're the emergency response team of your own life, constantly scanning for fires to put out and pieces to hold together. But what if I told you that the most radical act of power available to you right now is to step back and let the divine infrastructure already working in your favor do what it came to do? As the sun activates your second house of self-worth, values, and material stability, and harmonizes with expansive Jupiter, you're being given access to a higher strategy, one rooted not in control, but in cooperation. The stars are not asking you to hustle harder, they're aligning to teach you the mastery of surrender. And that's what rest really is, a signal to your nervous system that the danger has passed, and a signal to the universe that you are finally ready to receive without resistance. You see, when we're constantly in fix-it mode, we unconsciously block the very blessings we've been praying for. We set the tone that unless we make it happen, it won't. That's not co-creation, that's fear masquerading as responsibility. But your job now is different. You're not the architect Anna Moriarty, the receiver of the structure that's already being built for you in unseen realms. What's happening right now in your life is energetic surgery. The systems of chaos, scarcity, and overwork that once ran your internal operating system are being rewritten. But just like in any surgery, the most important requirement is stillness. This is why we turn inward. This is why we sip warm tea instead of fighting deadlines that no longer serve us. Why we write in journals instead of replaying scenarios we can't change. Why we look up at the sky not for answers, but for permission to feel small and held, just for a moment. These simple rituals aren't signs of weakness. They're signs that your spirit remembers something society taught you to forget. You don't have to do everything alone. And more importantly, you were never meant to. In therapeutic terms, this week is a nervous system reset. A return to your baseline of peace. And it may feel unfamiliar at first, especially for someone like you, who's spent years in a state of hypervigilance. But peace doesn't require permission to exist. It simply asks that you stop interrupting it with worry. That you stop proving yourself and begin trusting the proof that's already here. You're safe now. You're guided. And you're deeply, deeply supported. You might even notice that your breath feels different this week. Slower. Fuller. That's not random, it's energetic evidence that your inner environment is shifting. Your spiritual infrastructure is being upgraded. And rest is the doorway through which this healing walks in. So let this be your mantra: it's not mine anymore. It's already being handled. Say it when the urge to fix arises. Whisper it when anxiety creeps in. And most of all, let it guide you back into the sacred art of non-interference. Because Leo, your rest is not a reward for finishing the work. It is the work. And the universe is watching closely to see if you'll finally believe you're worthy of receiving without effort. You are. Let this be the week you finally accept that. Leo, what's arriving for you this week isn't a coincidence, it's confirmation. After the internal shift you've just undergone, the universe doesn't just stay quiet. It answers. But it rarely answers with flashing lights or grand announcements. Instead, it moves subtly, with elegance, and often through three gentle but powerful forms of confirmation that only those who are still enough, soft enough will recognize. These aren't random events, they are signals, divine receipts proving the spiritual transition you've accepted is now anchoring itself into physical reality. One of the most overlooked but profound signs is the sudden silence from those who once disturbed your peace. You may wake up one day and realize that the emotional noise you've grown accustomed to, the constant weight of someone's criticism, manipulation, or passive aggression is gone. You're not imagining it. That presence has truly been revoked. Energetically, what's happening is that the access point they once used to plug into your field has been removed. It's as if your soul has changed the locks while you were resting, and now their energy can no longer find a way in. This kind of silence is not just absence protection. It's a sign that the spiritual firewall has been activated, and you, Leo, are no longer required to defend yourself. That war has ended. The second form is what I call divine timing in physical form, the perfectly timed gift, the unexpected money, or the small gesture of support that arrives when you didn't even know how much you needed it. It might look insignificant: a refund you weren't expecting, a free coffee from a stranger, a sudden discount at the grocery store. But this isn't about material value. It's about the signal. It's about the frequency you're now emitting that says, "I'm ready to receive." The universe often tests your receiving channel with something small before it sends something big. Because how you hold the small is a prophecy of how you'll steward the large. When you say thank you for the $5, you clear the way for $5,000. When you light up over the little, you prepare your field to hold the magnitude of the abundance that's next in line. Gratitude is the open door, and trust is the key that unlocks it. The third and often most surprising sign is what I call a borrowed blessing. You'll witness someone close to you receive exactly what you've been praying for: a new job, a healed relationship, a financial breakthrough. At first, you might feel a twinge of sadness or confusion. You might ask, why them and not me? But this is not rejection, it's rehearsal. The universe is showing you what's already en route to you by letting you see it in proximity. This is the energetic equivalent of a trailer before the full feature film. It's not theirs instead of yours. It's theirs before yours to show you how real, how possible, and how near your moment actually is. When you see these signs this week, I encourage you to meet them not with doubt or dismissal, but with recognition. Pause. Acknowledge. Receive. These are your signs that the invisible is becoming visible. That the energy you've been shifting internally is now aligning with the external world. And each time you recognize one, say to yourself, "This is my confirmation. I am on the right path." If you feel this resonating, I invite you to comment, "I receive and I am grateful." That is your way of aligning with what is already unfolding. You're not asking for proof anymore, you're recognizing it. And that, Leo, is what accelerates everything. You're not being teased by these small signs. You're being prepared. Because the miracle heading your way is not light. It's legacy level. And now that you're anchored in gratitude and recognition, the gates are opening wider. Let them. Leo, as you enter this week guided by the cosmic architecture that has been carefully aligning itself behind the scenes, you're stepping into a deeply personal recalibration. This isn't just another wave of celestial activity, it's an intentional conversation between your inner world and the universe's blueprint for your evolution. The stars are not simply moving overhead. They are moving within you, encouraging you to examine, release, and realign the most essential pieces of who you are. With the sun illuminating your second house governing personal worth, financial stability, and your foundational sense of value. You are being asked to reevaluate what it means to feel secure, to feel deserving, and most importantly, to feel enough. Not through what you produce, not through what others approve, but through who you are when everything else falls silent. The sun's journey here is not just shining a light on your bank account or material resources, it's shining on the relationship you have with your own self-worth. This week invites you to drop the performance. You don't need to earn your place here. You never did. The energy now says, you belong because you exist. And your presence without pressure is more than sufficient. Now comes the wisdom of Jupiter, the great expander, forming a trine with Mercury retrograde. This is not a chaotic interference, it's a golden thread pulling old insights back into the light. Perhaps a message you overlooked, a memory that once wounded you, or a detail that didn't make sense at the time suddenly re-emerges with new meaning. This alignment isn't here to reopen the wound, it's here to cleanse it. It's here to help you reframe the past through the lens of growth, so that what once limited you now liberates you. Trust what returns, but don't overthink it. Feel it. Let your intuition translate it. Mercury retrograde is not the villain you were taught to fear, it's the guide that helps you retrieve the lost pages of your story so you can write the ending with more truth and authority. Venus, now in Virgo, brings grounded beauty to your heart and finances. In love, this may look like clearer boundaries, honest self-assessment, or stepping away from fantasy and into the sacred structure of something real. In money, it's an invitation to clean house, budget wisely, and invest in what supports your values, not just your image. Venus in Virgo teaches that love and prosperity aren't fleeting feelings or luck theory, cultivated rituals of attention, discernment, and care. You don't have to do everything perfectly, but you do have to mean it. This is the energy of sustainable intimacy, whether with another person or with your own truth. And then, just as all of this begins to settle into your field, the full moon rises. A culmination. A closing. A moment where the energetic harvest reveals what is ripe and what is ready to fall away. You may feel waves of release without fully understanding why. You may find tears surfacing, not from pain, but from the quiet recognition that you're no longer who you were and you're not supposed to be. The full moon, in its gentle but undeniable light, doesn't ask for struggle. It simply illuminates. What no longer fits will fade, not because you forced it out, but because your energy evolved beyond it. This week's astrology is not about dramatic turning points, it's about subtle realignments that carry lifelong consequences. And through all of this, Leo, the message is clear. You don't have to fight for what's already destined. You only have to align. The stars are not dictating theory partnering. They are not above you, they are with you. And if you listen closely, you'll hear the invitation, trust your becoming. Let go of what's too small. And step, with quiet confidence, into the version of yourself who doesn't just believe in miracles, who lives inside them. Leo, this is the part where it becomes real, not in the stars, not in the energy fields, but in your everyday life. Up until now, you've heard the messages, felt the stirrings, seen the signs. But none of it means anything unless it's embodied. This is where soul becomes structure, and belief becomes behavior. The work this week is not in trying harder, it's in receiving more clearly, more consciously. You are not just aligning with a miracle, you are preparing the space for it to land and live with you. That space begins with your daily rhythm. Each morning, Before you check your phone or carry the weight of the world on your shoulders again, take one simple, sacred moment to return to your center. Close your eyes. Breathe into your belly. And imagine truly feel the life you've been praying for already surrounding you. Imagine the freedom of it. The calm. The laughter. The softness in your chest. Not as something far off, but as something here, now. Because the nervous system doesn't wait for circumstance, it responds to perception. And when you show your body what it feels like to be blessed, your life begins to rearrange itself accordingly. At night, turn reflection into ritual. Write down 3 things, no matter how small, that came to you that day. A smile. A warm drink. A kind word. This isn't just gratitude, it's training your eyes to see how loved and supported you already are. The more you notice, the more appears. Energy responds to attention. And miracles often hide in the ordinary until we are wise enough to catch them. When someone compliments you or offers support, pause. Don't brush it off. Don't return it immediately. Simply receive it. Say thank you. Let it land. That's not pride, it's presence. Every act of graceful receiving is a spiritual statement that you believe you are worthy of good things. And that's what opens the door wider. Your body is the temple where this energy arrives first. Be mindful of what you feed it, both physically and emotionally. Reduce what agitates excess caffeine, overstimulation, negativity, and increase what soothes, herbal teas, grounding foods, quiet spaces. Even a gentle walk in nature is more powerful than we give it credit for. Movement, when done with mindfulness, is medicine. If your work life is draining, if you find yourself constantly depleted by tasks that no longer feel aligned, it may not be failure, it may be a signal. The soul has its own way of saying, enough. And when you're at that edge, it often means a breakthrough is trying to find you. Don't be afraid to question your direction. Life shifts when we do. Financially, stop measuring your worth against anyone else's path. Abundance is never one size fits all. Honor every cent that flows to you, no matter how small. A coin found on the sidewalk can carry more energetic weight than a paycheck, if it arrives at the right moment with the right message. The universe is endlessly creative, so be open to unexpected sources. Be willing to say yes, even when it comes in an unfamiliar package. In love, let the walls down just a little. Express your feelings without armor. Simplicity is powerful here. This week is not about grand gestures or intense conversations. It's about honesty. A genuine check-in. A real, how are you, that comes from your heart, not your habits. Vulnerability is the magnet that pulls truth into the space between two people. All of this, every breath, every journal line, every softened response is part of your miracle's arrival protocol. You're not waiting for lightning to strike. You're learning how to hold it when it does. And you're doing it beautifully. Keep going. The life that once felt out of reach is now responding to your presence in quiet, steady ways. Trust the quiet. It's working. Leo, you've carried enough. For longer than you've admitted, you've held the weight of responsibilities, expectations, and silent emotional labor, believing that if you just kept going, something would eventually break through. And this week, something does break, but it's not you. It's the old cycle. The spiritual tide is finally turning, not because you demanded a miracle, but because you've become ready to receive one. You've done the work. You've planted the seeds. You've shown up in ways no one else ever saw. And now, you're not being asked to hustle harder. You're being asked to rest. To soften. To stretch open the part of you that still hesitates when joy knocks on your door. Because the miracle isn't waiting for a better version of you, it's already on its way to this version, the one who dared to hold faith through fatigue. So as this week unfolds, ask yourself, can I be still enough to notice what's already changing around me? Can I let go of proving, fixing, controlling, and simply make space for the grace I've called in? The answers will arrive not in thunder, but in softness and quiet confirmations, in kind eyes, in signs so gentle you'll miss them if you're rushing. That's why this week is sacred. It's not about effort, it's about awareness. You're not here to force anything. You're here to witness what happens when alignment takes the lead. So pause. Exhale. And let this question settle in your heart. What would shift if I truly believed the miracle was already mine? Comment below and let me know. Have you ever felt like something bigger than you stepped in just when you were about to give up? What part of your life are you finally ready to surrender, so it can be transformed? And if this message touched you even in the smallest way, I invite you to affirm it by commenting 777 below. That's your energetic signature saying, yes, I'm ready to receive. Or write, I rest, and I trust the universe, if you're surrendering the wheel this week and stepping into divine ease. Thank you, truly, for spending this sacred time with me here on Eternal Mindfulness. Your presence, your heart, your growth, it means everything. Every like, every comment, every subscribe is not just support, it's part of the spiritual circle we're building together. So if you haven't already, subscribe and join this movement of mindful receivers, soulful seekers, and powerful creators. Leo, the most powerful thing you can do now is nothing gone purpose. Because rest is not retreat. It's readiness. It's the soul saying, I've done enough. Let the light carry me from here. So stay here with me. Breathe. Watch what unfolds. Your miracle is closer than you think.